get things started here. It's 12:01, so I wanted to establish some quick ground rules before we kick things off. Before that, I'll introduce myself. My name is Jonathan Jayaraja. I'm an engineer at OPG with the Pickering Fuel and Reactor Physics team. I'm also one of the professional development leads for the NAYGN Durham chapter, one of the co-hosts of today's webinar. Today's webinar is being co-hosted by NAYGN Durham and Atkins Realis. In terms of questions, I already see that we've had some folks throw in some questions. We do have a Q&A section which is located right above the chat function, along the same bar where the camera and mic is. As you've noticed, everyone's cameras and mics are disabled except for the moderators and the speaker, Francois. You can put your questions in this section. They will be moderated and placed in review. We will be having Q&A after the presentation, at which Matt and Caitlin will go through this, and then we'll publish the question and say them to Francois and kind of continue from there. With that said, I'll give a chance for Matt and Caitlin to introduce themselves. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay. Sorry, I thought Caitlin might be going first. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks, Francois. Really happy to be co-hosting this event today with Jonathan. Thank you for all the work that you've put in. Myself, I work at Atkins Realis. I am also the Canadian Operating Officer for NAYGN and help out Caitlin, who's the local chapter lead, but I'll let her explain her talk more about herself. But yeah, help support the Atkins Realis chapter wherever possible, as well as chapters all across Canada.
Nice. Thanks, Matt. My name's Caitlin, like you mentioned. I'm a fuel channel designer, also the chapter lead of the NAYGN CANDU chapter here at Atkins Realis. And just want to say thank you for participating in our event, and I hope you all enjoy the presentation from Francois. Back to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Matt. All right, so we'll continue on. In terms of today's agenda, we will have a quick land acknowledgement, and then we'll talk about an ED&I moment, a safety pre-job brief. We'll mention a little bit more about the co-hosts, and then I'll do a speaker introduction. At that point, I'll pass it on to Francois. After Francois's presentation, we will have a Q&A time slot where you'll be able to ask your questions and interact with Francois. I want to start off by acknowledging that the land which we gather is the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. We're meeting on the land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. Also acknowledging that many different treaties and traditional territories across the province of Ontario. Ontario is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, and I wish to express my gratitude for the Indigenous people's care and teachings about the land. Land acknowledgement is only a small step, but an important one in a lifelong commitment to learning and action towards reconciliation. The Durham NAYGN chapter encourages everyone to learn more about the important history of our Indigenous peoples. Our ED&I moment, our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion moment, is regarding Black History Month. As you know, February is Black History Month in Canada and holds a significant place in Canada's cultural landscape, serving as a platform to recognize and celebrate the rich history, contributions, and struggles of Black Canadians. Through February, Canadians engage in a variety of events, including lectures, exhibitions, performances, and discussions aimed at highlighting the achievements and challenges faced by the Black community. It is a time for reflection on the injustices of the past, the ongoing fight for racial equality, and the importance of diversity and inclusion in shaping Canada's identity. In terms of our safety pre-job brief, this is a virtual webinar. Just want to be able to take a moment here to review your working location. If you're working from home or you're working at your company site location, just checking in who you account to and if you have a dedicated marshalling area, and if you're aware of the exit strategies in case of a fire emergency, along with knowing the phone numbers of any emergency contacts or local authorities. All right, moving on to our co-host of this webinar. The NAYGN Durham chapter was created in 2008 It provides an opportunity for young generation of nuclear enthusiasts in the Durham region to develop strong leadership and professional skills and create lifelong connections, along with engaging and informing the public and inspire today's nuclear technology professionals to meet the challenges of the 21st century. The NAYGN Durham chapter has several sections, hosting events from networking to professional development, such as this webinar, community outreach, and public relations and education. Our next co-host is Atkins Realis. Atkins Realis, created by the integration of long-standing organizations dating back to 1911. Atkins Realis is a world-leading professional services and project management company dedicated to engineering a better future for the planet and humanity. Atkins Realis creates sustainable solutions that connect people, data, and technology to transform the world's infrastructure and energy systems. They deploy global capabilities to their local clients and deliver unique end-to-end services across the whole lifecycle of an asset. Services include consulting, design and engineering, procurement, project construction and management, operation and maintenance, decommissioning, and several others. The breadth and depth of their capabilities are delivered to clients in key strategic sectors such as the engineering services, nuclear, operations and maintenance, and capital sectors. All right, on to the star of our webinar here, Francois Cassac. He is the Deputy Director of the CANDU MONARK program at Atkins Realis. Francois is responsible for the development and deployment planning for the next generation of CANDU nuclear plants. Francois has worked with Atkins Realis and predecessor companies since 2007, beginning in the Plant Life Management Group. Since then, he has had a well-rounded career, first taking responsibility on engineering service projects and then moving into project management in 2019. Since 2022, Francois has been supporting the development of the next generation of CANDU plants within the new nuclear and new markets teams, leading into the CANDU Monarch program. Francois is an ardent supporter of the development of new leaders and leads various communication and leadership programs such as Toastmasters. Francois holds a master's degree in engineering and management from École Nationale Supérieure des Mines of Saint-Étienne in France, and a master's in chemical engineering from University of New Brunswick, Fredericton. All right, at this moment, I'm going to pass it on to Francois.
All right, thank you very much, Jonathan, and good afternoon, everyone. So just give me a second that I share the screen, and if you can give me a thumbs up that you are seeing it, that would be great. All right. Well, good afternoon, and I'm really happy to be here today, and thank you NAYGN and thank you Atkins Realis, for organizing this event and inviting me to share a little bit about the CANDU Monarch program. I know there's a lot of questions since we officially launched this product at the WNE in Paris last November, and I'll do my best to provide answers to questions. I just want to share a small disclaimer before I get started that there's a lot of sensitive informations, around this program, and so there might be a number of questions that I would not be able to answer at this time because I'm not allowed yet. But I'll be happy, if you want to follow up directly with me, to have separate sessions where we may want to have other discussions. With that, today I was asked to talk about, how is this program, going to help us in terms of our net zero future. And I'd like to take you a little bit on a journey, a little bit on the story of humanity, of Canada and technology, and how it led into CANDU Monarch and what it's going to mean for the Canadian future. So Atkins Realis, is developing this program, and Jonathan already mentioned a little bit about the company, but as you can see, we have people all over the world working on products. We have about 34,000 employees worldwide. In terms of CANDU, well, technology has been rolled out since the 70s, and I will get back to it afterwards. But we're currently delivering, on time, on budget projects in Canada with our refurbishments at Darlington and Bruce Power. And these projects, are critical to the nuclear industry. They are critical to CANDU technology because they are a proof to the world that we're able to do nuclear mega project in Canada. So I'd like to ask you a question. If you were to think about what is it that you really need? We talk about net zero future. What does that really mean for you? Or we talk about technology. What does that really mean? And how does that translate into what we need in life? And so I categorize this in three things that I feel, and you may share that or not, but I feel that we all need. The first one is security for life, right? So we all want to go home to our family. We want to be sure that no matter where we go within our country and we have our loved ones that are taken care of, they have reliable access to power, reliable access to security. The second one is we all want more choices. We all want more freedom. We want to be free to go wherever you want. We want to be free to pick what we want to do in the evening or in the weekend with our loved ones. But as well, to get that, we want problems to be solved, right? And that's part of what humanity is about. We're solving problems. Whether it's transportation, like this bridge is in the south of France. It's the Viaduc de Millau. And I remember when I would drive with my parents, would drive us to go to the south of France to the sea. Before that bridge was built, it would take us an hour and a half to go down the valley across the single village and go back up and continue. Now you just cross this bridge in 5 minutes, and this is the kind of indigeneity and use of technology that we all put together forward, so that we can solve problem and have that sense of freedom. Now, to get there, what do we do? And that's where we talk about advancement, advanced technology. What does that really mean? And if you think about it, what does that really mean? So here's just a simple example. We all want water. We all need water. Well, what has happened with water technology over the years? We've transported water. First you went to the well, then you went to the aqueduct, which was an amazing technological feat at the time. Again, this one is in the south of France. It's called the Pont du Gard. And the Romans were amazing at this technology. And then ultimately we had many pipes, but still the same pipes, whether it's clay, lead, cast iron, galvanized. Ultimately we get into smart piping systems so that we have a problem that's solved. We have good access to clean water in our houses. So this is the kind of things that happen with technology. When something works and is proven, we just improve it and we build on it. So what does that mean when we talk about nuclear? And so with nuclear, we have not just nuclear. When we talk about, a net zero future, we know that we have a challenge there and that the entire world is working towards resolving. And there are lots of studies that have been published around what does that mean? How do we get there in terms of producing clean power? Energy is really important, right? Like you want something that when you turn the light on at home, it doesn't turn off. That when you're in the cold or winter, you have heat. So different studies have been done across many different sources. Atkins Realis produced an engineering net zero report, and within that, it showed that we would have about the need to generate 5 to 7 gigawatt of electricity every year for the next 30 years, right? That's 3 times what we've done over the past 50 years. How do we get there? I know there's been a lot of talks about small modular reactors or SMRs over the years, but there is a lot of talks now about the need for large reactors because we're going to need everything. We're going to need all technologies to make it by the deadlines that we want. When we look at the Ontario Pathway to Decarbonization that was issued last year, I believe, not just the year before, but 17 gigawatt of new nuclear. It's essentially doubling, the amount of reactor power we're producing in Ontario. So large reactors have a role to play, and what better large reactor than Canada's, own design, which is the CANDU reactor. And so I just want to run through, for those who are new to the industry, a little bit of history. And CANDU really is a Canadian innovation. It goes all the way back to 1945. When the teams in the Chalk River area on the Ottawa River were working on, the very first nuclear reactions and controlled nuclear fission. So you had the ZIP reactor that used heavy water as a coolant that was pioneered around 1945. And then in the middle here, you can see the NPD, the nuclear power demonstrator. That's not far from Chalk River, and that started producing power in 1962. That reactor, when you think about it, it was a purposeful decision to be a made in Canada design. Originally, it was going to have a pressure vessel, just like some of the other reactor types, and it was going to come from the UK to Canada. And the teams were looking into it and thinking that if you want to go forward with this design afterwards and deploy it in the country, well, we have to be able to make it in the country. So then there was a decision that was made that pushed back the project by a number of years, but ultimately led to the pressure tube design. And as you can see on the right picture here, which is the face of another demonstration reactor, which is the Douglas Point, that is in the Bruce Power site on the shore of Lake Huron. So each of those circles that you're seeing, this is the face of the reactor, is a pressure tube that in which you have fuel and coolant under pressure. So it was really a purposeful decision that was made at that time to be the Canadian solution. And since then, well, as I mentioned, there's been a lot of reactors deployed around the world. You have the Bruce Power site that we can see here on the left. You have the Darlington units in the middle. It was even deployed internationally. We have a number of countries that have CANDU reactors today, such as the Qinshan in China on the right picture over there. So CANDU, for those who don't know, we're using natural uranium fuel, which means that we don't have to enrich and send it outside of the country. We are one of the, I think we are the fourth exporter of uranium in the world. And we don't have to send it out to then receive it back as enriched fuel. It's got excellent and long operational safety records, on time, on budget, international deployment, a reliable, long life, and high output reactors. Today, we are refurbishing the units in Darlington and Bruce Power on time, on budget. These are incredible projects that we're able to achieve. Again, very simple here. How does a CANDU reactor work? I talked about the pressure tubes that are in that square in the middle, and you have robots on the outside, which are the fueling machines that can actually change fuel online. That's one of the unique characteristics of CANDU technology. And then ultimately you go and boil steam in the steam generator, and that steam turns the turbine and provide electricity for clean electricity. So let's talk about why we're here and what is this CANDU MONARK about. So CANDU MONARK, it's a 1,000 megawatt class reactor. It's using natural uranium as fuel. So we're keeping the tradition of all the other CANDUs and using the proven technology in terms of our heat transport system. We are taking the previous technology, which is our ACR 1000 that was developed in the early 2000s. And we're adding into it, all the best OPEX and lessons learned from the current operating CANDU reactors to it. So natural uranium fuel, we are continuing the production of life-saving medical isotopes. Online refueling is still there, passive safety. We have a completely modular design. There's something I'll touch a little bit more afterwards. We are using what we call an operation and maintenance-based design. So ultimately, as I mentioned in the previous slides around, the advancement in technology, we want to make sure that we keep this proven technology and make it even more efficient, even more easy to operate. And I think that's one of the key message in the CANDU MONARK is that don't change what works, but makes it better. So we'll leverage a lot of operating experience, all these years of operation of CANDU reactors, what are challenges, what are opportunities, and how we incorporate that in the design. We have a unique feature, which is that we have a really mature Canadian supply chain. Most of the equipment that's being built today for the refurbishment projects are made in Canada, and we can leverage all this supply chain. And again, as I mentioned, we had on time, on budget deployment previously. A few more specifics as we go into the design, Gen 3 plus design. So what does that mean, Generation 3 plus design? So, when you look at the different reactor types, it talks about Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 4. Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, it just means that you've demonstrated your technology works, you've operated your technology, you've improved your technology. So here we are the next generation of CANDU reactors, which have been in operation for a long time, that have been demonstrated. It's a proven technology, and we just make it better to use, more efficiency, more maintainability, and especially a better constructability, because ultimately we want to make sure that we can deploy these plants in time, on budget, so that we can deliver the reliable power. In terms of specifics, we're looking at a 3-year outage cycle. So by that I mean there are certain things that you have to shut the reactor down to do maintenance, and that's called as planned outages. And current plants are working towards yearly, every 2 years, going towards every 3 years. So this plan by design is made for a 3-year planned outage cycle and about a 25-day outage duration. The plant is going to have a 70-year life with a midlife refurbishment in the middle. So just like we are doing refurbishments of Darlington and Bruce Power to continue for another 30 years of life, this is going to be built in the plant life. We are looking at a 95% annual capacity factor. So that means that you're up and running for more than 95% during the year and 92% over a lifetime of the plant when you account for the midlife refurbishment. It's been designed for higher seismic loads than the current CANDUs. It's got modular design for simplified construction, and we are continuing the production of medical isotopes. I will talk about that in the next slides. Everything that's informing the design is about safety, economics, operability. We have passive safety feature, that's allowing us to have a 72-hour grace period. And that is basically, the amount of time that the operator doesn't have to do any action in the plant. And digital twin and enhanced self-monitoring, which I will talk about later. On the isotope production front, so you must have seen that, Ontario Power Generation, Bruce Power are creating isotopes on a daily basis. And this is one of the key unique feature of the CANDU reactors. And then we're going to continue that. One of the advantage we have right now is that because we are finalizing the design of the MONARK, we're able to incorporate lessons learned from those projects into MONARK so that we have built-in provisions for those delivery systems. Dedicated space within the reactor building, reactor auxiliary building, so that we can have an easier process for that production of isotopes. In terms of key safety features, like I say, we're not changing what works, and CANDUs are renowned for their safety. So we still have 2 fast-acting safety systems, shutdown system 1 and 2. We have our emergency core cooling system that consists of emergency coolant injection and long-term cooling. We of course have our containment system with a steel liner. We have our emergency feed water, and we're using a 4-quadrant design that was taken from the leverage from the ACR 1000 design. In terms of our descent in depth, we are also including our emergency filtered containment venting system to control the release of radiation. We also have a severe accident recovery and heat removal system. So this is a new system that's helping replenishing the inventory within the plant. And as I mentioned, we have low flow sprays that are used to achieve a 72-hour grace period to maintain containment integrity. Now, when we talk about streamlined construction, this is the key thing here, because we've heard so many stories around the world about constructions of nuclear plants, and there's been struggles, but there are also success stories. So we want to leverage that and make sure that we are applying the right OPEX and the right features in our design to make sure that this is a plant that can be built in a streamlined manner and built effectively. So we are looking at vertical integration. So we have our containment, our reactor building that's being erected, and then we have modules that can be produced in controlled environment and brought to site and then put into place in a very ordered manner. So we have logistics plan that have been put in place to make sure that all these modules arrive and have an easy installation. Here is another representation of the type of modules, that go in the plant. So if you're familiar a little bit with CANDU technology, you can see that we have a module for the reactor assembly. We have modules for our feeders. We have multidisciplinary modules that incorporate mechanical equipment, INC, structural steel. Some may have some civil structure in it as well. And all together, are used to construct the plant. So with that approach, we have a reduced worksite population, we have improved access to the work areas, and we have a better control of the work. So it's going to be a logistic planning effort, but with better controlled work activities. Now, in terms of digital technologies, this is something that we're spending a lot of time on. So digital twin is a term that represents, a twin of the plant, and that you have your single source of truth, because everything here is data driven, right? Where in the past you may have a lot of documents that contain the information about the plant, about how it's supposed to operate. Everything is data driven now. And that digital twin will be the source of truth that contains all this information, and that can be used when we're doing design, when we're doing commissioning and training of staff, and when the plant is being operated. So that will come with the CANDU MONARK. It's going to enable, better informed decisions. We're also working on enhanced health monitoring that we are using. It's called EHM. And basically is, how do you leverage condition-based maintenance? How do you leverage, the data that comes out of the plant when it's operating to drive your maintenance decisions? So that's going to be incorporated from the beginning. In that digital twin, as I mentioned, it's a common data environment that has your 3D model, your physics models, your plant operation data, your procurement data, so that everything is in the same environment and you can make decisions that are better informed. All this to reduce risk and increase efficiency through the different stages of the plant. And finally, our Canadian supply chain, I mentioned about, it's a Canadian story for the CANDU reactor, with decisions that were made in the very early stages of the demonstrators of the CANDU technology, that this is a product that can be made by Canadian for Canadians in Canada. And right now, most of the equipment is already being made in Canada. For the refurbishments, we have a well-established, qualified, and reliable suppliers that we're working together with, and they are getting geared and ready for the deployment of the next generation of CANDUs. So this robust supply chain is something that we're working with when we talk about the module fabrication in terms of equipment, construction expertise, and then bringing also thinking from outside the nuclear industry, because a lot of work has been done in the modularization area that the nuclear industry can leverage going forward. And next, I have a short video to play for you. I hope that it's going to work. There might be a little bit of lag for everyone, but there you go.
Energy powers our lives. It starts our mornings, invigorates our days, and lights up our evenings, allowing us to do what we want to do and go where we want to go. And as we go further, faster, we need reliable, safe, and secure energy solutions. We need CANDU nuclear energy to fuel our future. Canada has a proud story to tell, a story of innovation and ingenuity, of sound solutions to global challenges. During the past century, Canada's researchers and scientists developed and perfected the internationally renowned CANDU reactor, our homegrown solution currently powering 60% of Ontario and 15% of Canada. Its use of domestically sourced natural uranium eliminates the cost of enrichment. Its unique heavy water design regulates a slow, safe reaction, and its exclusive capacity for active refueling maintains a steady output, enabling more than 75,000 jobs across Canada. And with 85% of parts, equipment, and service sourced domestically, CANDU doesn't just energize our homes, but our communities and our economy. Investing in CANDU builds a future of clean nuclear power for generations to come. While tomorrow's energy demands are made possible by refurbishment of existing plants and new builds, and patients around the world rely on CANDU to provide the medical isotopes that sterilize surgical equipment and diagnose and treat deadly diseases. Backed by years of investment and innovation, our exemplary global reputation rests on a solid foundation. Abundant natural resources, robust regulatory practices, groundbreaking research and laboratories, a strong, knowledgeable supply chain, a skilled and dedicated workforce, and collaborative, committed partnerships. Through formal training, open dialogue, meaningful actions, and an inclusive culture, we can support Indigenous reconciliation across every region of the country as part of our commitment to creating a better future for our planet and its people. As the exclusive stewards of Canada-owned CANDU technology, AtkinsRéalis is building on this legacy with confidence in its future. As the dominant clean energy solution, CANDU is poised to scale up, bolstering our economy, protecting our environment, and reaching our net zero goals. Opportunity is at our doorstep. We have the advantage with investment, expertise, and partnerships. Imagine what we can do.
All right. I hope that it worked, and apologies if it was a little bit lagging, but I just want to reflect on this presentation, and I know that there's still, I'm sure, many questions, but the whole point here is that this is a unique product. CANDU is a unique technology that really is something that Canadian can be proud of. And so I hope that, I want to leave you here with, certain feelings that I feel and that I hope you may share, which is that we can be optimistic about the future. There is a solution to our net zero future, and CANDU is a big answer of it. And CANDU MONARK is the next, generation of CANDU plants that will help get to that stage. I hope that you will feel engaged, and I know that you are. By looking at the number of people calling in today, I see that there is a lot of enthusiasm and curiosity and engagement. And then the next step in there is to tell people around you that, there is a solution to this net zero future, and we don't have to look very far for it. So go out, spread the news, and be engaged with this industry. And then finally, that you can be proud and excited that this is something that our parents before us have put together, have brought to this stage, and we can take that torch and move it forward. So as future leaders of the industry, I'm so proud to see NAYGN taking the lead to get this seminars, these webinars, these conferences, these discussions where we can talk about how we're going to work together, how we're going to advance technology even further. Who knows where else we're going to go, but that this CANDU MONARK is one piece that we can all be proud and push forward towards getting a better future for the people and its for the planet and its people. So with that, that's the end of the presentation I had, and we can move to the I guess the more exciting part of it where we can interact a little bit. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Francois. Yeah, as Francois mentioned, at this point we have time for Q&A. And so I just want to remind everyone that at the top of the ribbon for the team's window that you see, there's a Q&A portion there, and you can submit questions in there. But to get us started, Francois, I do have a pretty good question here that was posted in the chat already. And I think it's really relevant to your presentation specifically. So interested to hear your thoughts. Really at the core of it, what's the need of the CANDU MONARK right now? Why now? We see in the industry there's this huge influx to SMRs that are being introduced to the market, and they're being bought and sold. What value does the CANDU MONARK bring, and why are we developing? Why is there a push to develop it now?
Well, that's a great question, and as I mentioned in my chat, there's been a lot of talk about SMRs, and so why the need now? I think, as I mentioned, and I didn't put in my presentation, but in Dubai we had the COP28 that just took place. 22 countries pledged to triple nuclear energy in the world. Now, SMRs are great, but like the word, like their name says, it's a small reactor. I think it's up to 300 megawatt, and we need just more power. We just need a lot of power. So it's not one shoe fits all. We need all the technologies that are available to be able to address the challenge in front of us. So, and you can see not just SMRs are being sold around the world. The Baraka unit, which has large reactor, just came online. Other large technologies are being considered, and for deployment in other countries. And in Canada, we have our own technology, which is the CANDU reactor. We have an industry that's fully developing the equipment and the tools for it, and there's just a continuity in deploying the CANDU MONARK today. So we want to be ready so that by the time all the refurbishment projects that are ongoing are ending, we can build the next generation of CANDUs using that same supply chain that can be expanded even further. So it's not one or the other, it's we need everything. We need every technology. And if we're in Canada, there is no question that our homegrown technology is part of the solution.
Thanks, Francois. There's another question here talking a little bit about the rise in anti-nuclear organizations in Canada. Can you talk a little bit about the social license of CANDU MONARK and any kind of considerations around engaging the public and etc.?
Yeah, thank you. Again, that's another big question. I think there's something to be said about the CANDU technology in general that uses, natural uranium, that uses less fuel to produce more, the same amount of power. So in terms of social license, it's something very important that the team's working on. We have, of course, right now we do not have like a site that we're going to go. But we are engaging with a lot of communities to talk about, what it means to them, what does new nuclear means to them, and we're preparing to have these discussions with the different communities. We're looking at the plant itself. We talk about a net zero future. Well, can we have a net zero plant? Do we have, or a carbon zero plant? So there are considerations that also go into the design of the plant itself to make it the most sustainable.
Thank you.
Thanks, Francois. I kind of want to turn it to a new question, kind of a different route here, but looking broader strokes. You kind of mentioned it briefly there that there's not a directly planned site right now, but what is the ultimate goal in terms of deployment? Is it focused on Canada? Are we looking internationally as well for the CANDU MONARK? What are the best avenues that the CANDU MONARK can be implemented, or where does it fit best?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that when you look at the history of the CANDU reactors, so they are deployed. The majority of the reactors are in Canada, and the majority are in Ontario. But we do have deployed CANDU reactors, in other countries, so Argentina, Romania, China, South Korea, and one of the reasons why those reactors have been deployed there as well is because CANDU technology is a technology that's easy in terms of localization. The fact that you don't have big pressure vessels, that you can make your components in the country, and also the fact that you can rely on natural uranium fuel again. There's only a few countries in the world that can make this type of enriched fuel. So the fact that you're able to deploy it they make it easier. So for CANDU MONARK specifically, where do we want to go? Obviously, any interested client will be happy to sell CANDU MONARKs to them. We start at home. We have the IESO has given us, the power, the energy industry a challenge, which is to electrify, most of Ontario, most of Canada, and we have to respond to that first. But we also have, I cannot go into details, but we have discussions, beyond Canada around potential markets for the CANDU MONARK. So we look at it as something that will start in Canada, but will ultimately be deployed everywhere.
Cool. I see a few questions related to AI and its use. Is AI being considered, and can you speak to the integration of AI tools in the operation of the plant?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a great question, and AI is everywhere. Maybe AI is writing the questions today. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But no,
ChatGPT.
in all seriousness, this is something that that we are working on. Using artificial intelligence technology. I mentioned our enhanced health monitoring capabilities for the plant. So, how can we use today's tools, right, to predict failure, to identify areas that need maintenance, areas that need to be looked at. So we do have activities ongoing in this area, and I think that's going to be pretty cool. And of course, there's a lot of vetting that needs to be done because it's a very unique industry, but we are using the latest technologies to get to that stage. And ultimately, the people who will run these plants and operate these plants, they want to be, they need that confidence that the tools they have been given to run the plant are reliable and will inform them to make the right decision. So this is absolutely part of the conversation in the program.
I feel like we're doing a bit of a rapid fire here for you, Francois. Next
worries.
question I got for you, it touches on kind of the past CANDUs as well. Specifically, we talked about the ACR 1000 and you leveraging its design as well, how it was already licensed through the CNSC process and everything. How does the plan for the CANDU MONARK leverage specifically? Can you elaborate more on the ACR 1000 and how it leverages that design?
Sure, I'll do my best to talk here. So the major difference, between the ACR 1000 with other CANDU reactors was that it was a deviation from the traditional unenriched uranium fuel, right? So
I think we're in a bit of a lag here.
Oh, not just me.
Yeah, I thought it was me here too. Q&A function is not active. It should be active. You should be able to post a question up top in the ribbon. Anyone else having any issues with the Q&A function? I think looks like Matt and Francois both are having a bit of an internet. Might be an office issue.
That might be.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh yeah.
Well, technology, there you go.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm calling from my phone and we'll continue from here. But anyways, let's see here. I can, there you go. Let's continue. So we were talking about the ACR 1000 and, what are we retaining there? So we are leveraging a lot of the plant layout, a lot of the constructability, studies that have been done, and we're improving on those. But everything around the fuel, everything around the heat transport system, this is something that we're going back to the root of the proven technology. So something that's, in a way, quite similar to the plant that we have at Darlington in terms of overall layout or heat transport system with the natural uranium core. So it's got, I don't know if I mentioned that anywhere, but there's 480 channels in CANDU MONARK, which is the same amount of channels that we have in the Bruce and Darlington reactors.
Looking ahead for the MONARK, has there been any consideration to future refurbishments of MONARK and how that might be improved upon, or?
Yeah, that's
like
a great question. So we're learning a lot, right, from the current refurbishments that are going really well. And at the same time, we have to recognize that the next refurbishment for, the refurbishment, or maybe the first refurbishment for CANDU MONARK is going to take place, I don't know, 40, 45 years from now. Now, what tools are we going to have 40 years from now that's going to help us do a refurbishment, and is that refurbishment going to look like what we are seeing today? Probably not. But what we are thinking about as part of the program is how can we make CANDU MONARK, flexible enough that we can adapt whatever technology is going to be available at that time. So it's a little bit of future side, vision going on, but this is definitely something that we are putting in. And if anything, we know that it's going to be, even easier than what we're doing today, or even faster and more streamlined. So the team is eagerly working on that. It's pretty cool, actually.
Mm-hmm. I'll go. Matt, you had some difficulties, so I'll take the next
Yeah,
one
I
too, if
think-
you don't mind. So,
I think our connection went down in the office. I apologize for that.
yeah, classic Sheridan Park. Is there any considerations for developing an SMR based on the CANDU design?
Well, I'm not gonna comment too much, but there was a CANDU SMR that was put forward, a few years ago, but it was not selected at that time. So right now we're focusing on the CANDU MONARK.
That's fair.
Not sure if I lost during when I lost the connection, or if it was already asked, but I'll put it out there and let me know if you did end up getting to it, Caitlin. But considering the modular design aspect of the MONARK, are there any considerations or differences in building a multi-unit station versus a single unit station when utilizing that modular design?
That's an interesting comment. Yeah. So, how we're going to build CANDU MONARK, I would say that there is definitely benefits in the modular front when you do multi-units, because it's a repeat, right? Ultimately, you're repeating construction of the same unit from one to the next. So that modularized design, and construction will get even better as you're going for one unit to the next. But the key here is making sure that your design is ready. What's the biggest challenge you will find when you do any construction and modular construction as well is the design. You want to make sure that as few design changes as possible. But definitely when it comes to multi-units versus single unit, that's something that we believe the modular construction will help improve the speed of the construction of the next units. Yeah.
Right. There's another question here about, you mentioned that the MONARK will be built with hydrogen production in mind. They're wondering how exactly is that being worked into the design, and if you could speak a little bit to that.
I cannot really speak to this too much. I apologize. But definitely, we're talking about hydrogen production, and it's not specific to MONARK. I think that even the current utilities are looking at that as well. So there's a lot of work happening in the industry, and we're following along with the same approach that others are doing.
I think this one's an interesting question, and you kind of did touch on it, Francois, but maybe it could use kind of revisiting. But I think for those of us that are familiar with CANDU, there are clear advantages and differences between existing reactors or other reactors. When we look at other new reactors that are coming on the market, are there clear advantages that you see with the MONARK over some competitors, or what other technologies are already out there?
Well, in there are definitely pros and cons, and one thing I'll put forward, and I gotta give credit to my wife on that, is that it's very hard to answer the question, what's the best technology, right? I'll give you an example. We all need to live in a house, okay? Now, how you build a house in Canada and how you build a house in Thailand, where my wife is from, is totally different. In Canada, we build a house with frames and insulation to make sure we can keep the heat. In Thailand, you build a house with, porous materials so that you can actually have dissipation of heat and you have a cooler house. So what's the best house? Depends where you are, right? So when I think about the CANDU MONARK, I'm just looking at the perspective that we live in a country that is able to produce every single components of this reactor, that can delivers it on time, on budget, that uses natural uranium, that I don't have to rely to another country in case there is a conflict that emerges, even with, people we think are friends. You never know what can happen tomorrow. So we have a very secured environment to have the CANDU MONARK as being the right technology for the country. So I look at it in this perspective. There's no best technology. It's really about what is best for where you are today. And in my mind, CANDU MONARK answers that question.
I agree. I have a question here. They're wondering, where can they watch the video that you showed?
Oh, actually, that means it probably was lagging and cutting all the way, but it's
It
on
was a little leggy, but we could hear the audio. It was okay.
We'll ask Jonathan to send the link to everybody, but if you go to the Atkins Realis website, there should be a link there for the CANDU video.
Perfect.
Perfect. I don't know if you'll be able to speak to this, Francois. So if not right now, feel free to mention it. But there has been a couple questions reiterating if the planned 1,000 megawatts is to keep the 480 channels in the existing design, or if the number of fuel channels are going to be different with the CANDU MONARK. If you don't have the answer right now, that's totally okay.
No problem. We're trying to leverage, as I mentioned, proven technology. So the less we change in terms of the fundamental technology, the better. So we are using 480 channels in this reactor. And at this point, we're not intending to change that.
Let's see. This one might be geared more towards Jonathan, but someone's wondering if the slides will be shared after the presentation.
Definitely, if Francois is okay with it, I can definitely share the slides.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
I got a good one, which would kind of answer a lot of because we are getting quite a few very technical questions. And so this one question will maybe answer a lot of those. But is there a timeline on when more detailed information on the MONARK design would be able to be shared in terms of the very technical information that some people are seeking?
Yeah, I'm surprised that's one of the last questions I'm getting. First one. But no, it's true. So we are sparingly giving updates on the program, and we have a technical session that's going to take place at the CNA conference in a couple of weeks from now, and then we're going to have a number of technical updates on the Atkins Realis website, probably in the next couple of months. So just stay tuned. If you look at the Atkins Realis website, there's going to be updates being put there on a periodic basis going forward. This is kind of the first, I think it's the first webinar or presentation on the MONARK that we're doing publicly, since the launch in November. So, I really appreciate everybody, and I know people who've been in the industry, they probably have way more questions than we covered today, but eventually they will be answered. But I really appreciate everybody taking the time today. I think it's really great to see the engagement from everybody.
Yeah, thank you for that, Francois. And I guess with that, to keep time in mind, we have 5 minutes to the hour. Maybe if you could, Francois, could you give just some closing remarks, or give you the opportunity to summarize anything that you want to get across, or key message before we wrap up today?
Yeah, thanks, Matt, and thanks everybody for joining. So we have a big team currently working on this program. We're over 150, 200 people are working on this. I get a lot of questions from people, a lot of people coming and asking about coaching advice for their career, right? And when I said at the end of my slides, to be optimistic, engaged, proud, and excited, that's what I tell the team like every day. And I tell them, go and talk to the people around you, talk to your little brother and sister, or I talk to my son and my daughter about nuclear energy, because Canada is going into, constructions of plants for many, many, many years. And we need everyone to be involved. We need everybody to get engaged. Curiosity is something that if you have it, keep it. If you don't have it, well, try to be more curious, ask more questions. You're not always going to have the answers, but the more you ask, the more you get. And in terms of your career progression as future leaders, the more you get yourself informed to this kind of forums and webinars, I think it's great. So I would love to have more discussions after this with people who join here. If you want to reach out directly, I'll be happy to have separate discussions with anybody interested. But again, just want to thank everybody that joined, and thank Jonathan and NAYGN for organizing this at Kings Realis, and you guys have done a great job to putting this together.
Thanks, Francois.
Thank you.
Thanks, Francois. I'll turn it over back to you, Jonathan, to close us out.
Thanks, Matt. So just reiterating what Francois said, thank you to everyone. I think the excitement is in the air, the enthusiasm as well, and looking forward to learning more about, more of the technical side of CANDU Monark with the CNA sessions and sort of the posts that'll be made on Atkins Realis. So very exciting time. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to Francois for this engaging webinar. Really looking forward to what comes out in the future. So thank you all, and see you again. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
All right. I think we'll